All right. This is the Takeout Podcast as always, and I'm your host, Larry Ogeda. With me is
My name is JB. Hi, everyone, and I'm glad to be here on the checkout.
wonderful.
Yes.
So this is where we talk about the seven spheres of influence. You believe that there are more?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I still think we are seven, but they get broader, and I think we'll get to the nitty-gritties of why it's broader.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so Larry Ogeda is my name again, and a podcaster, a DJ, and a delivery guy. You can, you can call me for your 1, 2, 3 things in town. So so introduce us to who you are, what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, my name is JB, and I am a coach. That's what I do. I'm a coach. I coach around life purpose, identity, like purpose and identity. So that's what I coach. I also write on the same. Yeah, that's who I am.
Wonderful. I'm part of what you have been doing, the ministry that you've been doing. I must say, there's a lot of change. So I'm hoping to also pick up where you stopped.
Awesome.
Like for the young generation,
Yes.
you have already passed on the baton, and it's interesting that your course really pushes us to pass the baton.
Yes. Absolutely.
Which is wonderful, yeah. So I'm on the 6th cohort. So we're hoping we'll be till cohort 50.
Cohort 50, cohort 60, cohort 70.
For our sons and daughters, yeah.
Yeah.
So the journey begins all the same. So today we are also talking about 7 spheres of influence. You can add the ones you have, but I believe family is number 1. Then there's religion. Then there's media. There's education. There's economics. There's governance.
Just governance and sports.
Yeah. So the purpose of the podcast is to redeem these platforms or these spheres back to God.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's a lot of change in the world right now. Where in effect to those 7 spheres.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know what you think about the 7 spheres.
Yes. So what's happening is I think the way the world has morphed, we have sort of a blurring of traditional boundary lines.
Yeah.
And now people are sort of gathered into these areas of human interest, areas of knowledge, areas of expertise. So they're gathered in these areas, and so you find, like, for example, in the family space, or in the media space, or even the government space, this becomes like spheres with their own language, with their own culture, with their own way of thinking. So our focus is to try and bring change into those areas, as opposed to a more traditional approach where we're looking at nations. I think the world has changed. The boundary lines are quite blurred here. Yeah.
Wonderful. Today or in the previous podcast I've done, I'll be talking about family and the importance of the most. I think the family sphere is the one that we can manage, or I can manage just for now.
Yeah.
And the media space. So those are the spheres I think are important or integral in me coming into the spheres and bringing about change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yours I think is education, or is it?
Yes, it's education. In the model we teach, we call it knowledge. Yeah. But yes, in terms of so primarily from a perspective of using education to teach. To change the world, really, using knowledge, wisdom, understanding to change the world. And so I think that's the essence of disciple making, passing on of knowledge, like you were saying earlier, passing on of the baton. So what I do is primarily in the education sphere, and not in the traditional sense of education, because whereas we run it as a school, but it's like a school of life. So teachings about purpose and design, and teachings about how one can fine tune their identities to fulfill that purpose. Yeah.
Wonderful. So as you know, this is just the beginning of the Takeout podcast.
Yes.
And yours has been running for about 5 years, or is it 3?
3 years, slightly over 3 years.
How did you start? How was the conception of the idea, or the how is it like?
How we started off?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting story. It begins many years ago. Yeah, I think it's 27 or so years ago. Yeah.
Of just birthing the idea.
Yes. The first seed of the idea came together that was 27 years ago, and even back then I did some classes. So looking at it and saying, so I've always been passionate about understanding God's purpose and design, and trying to fix what's wrong with the world, which I came to understand as what's wrong with the world is a problem of design. So trying to fix it by getting back, getting people, organizations, communities back to God's design. And so that was the mission, that was the agenda. But now the vehicle to do it with. So we came up together with the idea of the school because it forms the right kind of environment, an instructional environment, systematic instruction that can lead somebody from where they are to where they need to be able to fulfill God's purpose. So 25 years ago, and it's been tweaked over time. We've done versions of it, but it was until just over 3 years ago that we now opened the doors officially, and we're able to do the classes. Yeah.
It's interesting that I actually remember when you had was it a way of doing it? There's a time when you brought men, about 5.
Yes.
And I was one of them.
Yeah.
Apparently I was the youngest.
You are the youngest, I remember that.
It was a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
Knowledge being passed on from their experiences, and I think it really made my mind joke. At least I understood that I'm a man, and there are certain things that are needed of me, which I think has really blossomed my thinking capacities and all that. What were you doing, or what were you thinking you were doing?
Yes, thank you for that. I remember that. I remember the experience we had, and that was like I think the first one we did. We were a bunch of men, and just having conversations. And the idea with it is like you're talking about the spheres of influence. When you look at the family space, now when you look at the family space, men are like foundations or pillars. And in the family space, so that's what was going on. So looking at generations of men, because in that forum we had those who we consider fathers, those who consider brothers, those who consider sons. So the passing on of the baton. So being able to influence like that, or sharing in a setting, men can be able to sit in a setting like that and share knowledge. As they say, iron sharpens iron. So that was the framework that we were going, and being able to influence the family space in that way. When you influence men, you've done a whole lot to reconcile the family space. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
If I start thinking, I hear sayings like, once you teach, this is a whole lot. I don't know if I'll get into this conversation. But there is this thing of, if you teach, should I say a lady or a woman? you've taught the whole village. What are your thoughts on that perspective?
Interesting.
Following the works.
Yeah, interesting phrase. I think the balance between masculinity and femininity, between ladies and men, and the way they process information, and I think that's where that quote is going in terms of the measure and the impact.
Yeah.
Now, so I would say, yes, there's a lot of impact you achieve when you impact women. Yeah, it's significant. Yeah, it's significant. But there's a foundational way in which when you impact men, then you impact women, which will then impact society in the much bigger way. So as long as there's that imbalance between the feminine and the masculines, then you also have that imbalance is seen in the way knowledge is passed from generation to generation. So I would say it's not one or the other. It is both. Yeah, when you educate the men, you're doing a whole lot to educate the women, and you're doing a whole lot to empower the community. Yeah.
So there's a whole balance, a whole ripple effect that is supposed to exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
anyway, as I've been doing your classes, there are foundational things that I've been learning. Like recently we were talking about the Eze thing.
Yes.
And the Eze seemed to a reflection of God.
Yes.
Through women. Can you explain?
About Genesis chapter 2, where the Bible talks about how God created the woman and said, help meet. Now this is help meet. And the Greek word there being Eze connecto, help meet. So from the context of the class, we see that same word translated there as help is a word that God uses for himself. Actually, it's used 21 times in the Bible, and 17 out of those times it's in the context of God himself being the help. So in that sense, we see that when women function by God's design, then they can be able to reflect the kind of help that God gives to their own world. There's a divinity about when a woman functions that way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's for the Ezra is for the lady.
For the lady, yes.
Actually, my third name is Ezekiel.
Ezekiel, yeah.
It's really the strength of God.
Yes, Ezekiel.
And the
strength of God.
And the L signifies.
L is God.
Yeah.
Ezekiel. L. So the L is God.
Yeah. So I'm really passionate about now using what God has bestowed in me, and it's part of the year course we've been doing so far.
Yeah.
From September last year.
Yes.
I'm hoping guys can join in for the Code 7.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome to join us. We are currently doing the intake for cohort 7, January intake. So feel free. It's a great experience. You can join us.
So why the name of the farm? Because I would imagine we were going to some farm.
Why the name the farm?
Yeah.
The reasoning behind the name is simple, really.
Yeah.
It's that idea of cultivation. So it's when you refer to a farm, what is the context? There's a seed. There's a seed. There's a ground. There's desire for fruit. So the seed in the ground, cultivate the ground, plant the seed, nurture it, it grows, it bears fruit. So that is in the context of God's gift, God's purposes for our lives. So looking into one's life and saying, okay, the seed of God is within you, like yourself, for example. Nurturing the seed of God within you. And so putting it in an environment where it can thrive, and then now sharpening it. The Bible talks about stirring up the gift.
Okay.
So nurturing it. So that is the context of you're being in a farm, you're being cultivated until you become what you're meant to be. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, in one of the podcasts, I talked about the mentor-mentee relationship. And, I look at you as a mentor, and the mentor-mentee kind of vibe is what we talk about having disciples.
Yes.
And that disciple element. And I can say I now understand the fruits of having a mentor.
Yes.
I never thought it was a phenomenon that would exist in my mind. But talk about how do you find the people that you mentor?
Yeah.
How do you are you the one who approaches them, or are they the ones that approach you?
Yeah. Oh, interesting question. I can answer it from what has happened. My experience.
Yeah.
And from my experience, how I met the first gentleman who mentored me, introduced me to the whole concept of life purpose and everything. How I was able to meet them is I sought them out. I listened to them speak, and a lot of what they were saying were vibing with me. I was like, I want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, like a role model. So I want to do that. I want to be able to do that the way he does it. So one of those, I was very young then. So one of those, and it was back in the day. So we're in this school, we're doing this meeting, it was a convention, and so he was more accessible because so in that convention we would sleep in dorms. The dorms that have double-decker beds.
Yes.
So even the teachers, the preachers, the speakers would sleep with us in that setting. So you'd be on the bunk bed, you'd be on the top. So it was very accessible. So anyway, that gave me opportunity. So we just sat somewhere. I remember where we sat, and I asked him, or rather, he started asking me a couple of questions, and he started at the seed within. He said to me, "There's something God has created you to do that no one else can." So that started a passion in me. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So that's how it happened. Now, the people that I have mentored over the years, it's been either. Sometimes I spot them, sometimes they spot me. Yeah, so it can unfold. It can unfold either way. There are instances where I've walked up to someone and said, okay, God has put you in my heart. I see this 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, would you like to engage in these conversations? They're like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. In some other cases, somebody has walked up to me and said, I've been listening to you and I want more of what I've been hearing. So the engagement starts like that. Yeah.
Interesting. I think for my story is that you picked me.
Yes, I did.
And it's very interesting.
You're one of those.
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting journey.
Yeah.
Because I think then I was living with I forget his name. I was living with Pastor Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy.
Yes.
And I didn't have any source of income. I was just there. I think then I was a DJ, but I'm still a DJ, by the way.
Yes, you are.
I'm still one. And at that time, I didn't have any source of income. And I remember you kept telling me, you can live and live your own life.
Yes.
You can manage to work. In fact, when I was listening to that, I was like, what is he talking about? So years later now, I can see where I was then. Yeah. And I want to thank you. And
absolutely,
it's delightful to see the path of someone else and adapt. And that being the case, I pledge to do the same to other people. At least I have done it to people without really telling them I'm your mentor. Yeah. I remember you. I don't remember any point of time you telling me I'm your mentor.
No, I did not.
You should listen to me.
No, I did not.
So that's what I'd really like you viewers to do. Challenge yourself to mentor someone. And you don't have to tell them. It's not a relationship kind of thing where you have to tell you. Where you have to confirm.
Yeah.
These are the boundaries. Yeah, so that's the mind. What would you say about someone who's in the dream of thinking, am I really ready to be a mentor?
Yeah, and that's a question that people have a lot because of the ways in which we discount ourselves.
Yeah.
Looking at yourself and saying, okay, maybe I haven't achieved, what I want to achieve, or I'm still struggling in this area or that area, or I'm still trying to figure things out. So sort of preoccupied in trying to figure out and saying, am I really ready to mentor? I think you're always ready to mentor someone. And here's the reasoning. There is always somebody who is ahead of you. There's always somebody who's next to you, and there's always somebody who's behind you. So the one who's behind you, irrespective of where they are, where you are, they can learn from you. There's something. It's like if you're to take a journey from Nairobi to Mombasa, and someone is in Machakos, somebody's in Emali. Email. Someone is in Emali. So the person who is in Emali knows a few things they can pass to the one who's still in Machakos. They can call you up and say, look, there's some terrible traffic issue here. So you might want to take a slight detour here and then you come here. So in that sense, so just the confidence to know that even though I'm in the learning process, I can pass it on to someone. I can tell you because when I was working with you, it was not because I have perfected something. It's just like what I am learning, I'm sharing with you. Yeah.
Wonderful. I have always wanted to podcast from way back. I think anybody who knew me then would be wondering, why has it taken you forever to this thing? But when you talk about 27 years of really thinking about the farm, I'm like, wow. So I am not really far off from that kind of edge. And I'd say part of the reason I have really, it has pushed me to go to the podcast side is I am a loud mouth. When I speak, people are always laughing and wondering, when will this guy shut his mouth? And look, sometimes you look at it as a downside, but I think God never makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
And part of the reason I have done this is through something we call a skip project. In one of the farm lessons, And what really is a skip project?
Okay, but before I answer on the skip project, first of all, to say, I mean, I'm extremely, absolutely proud of you for this step.
Thank you.
I know it's been coming. It's been coming, and the way it has unfolded, it's amazing. And I think it's gonna go places. The gift of God within you, even through the communication that you're saying, you talk. That's a gift. That's a gift, and it's coming out. You using it as a platform to mentor others. About the skip project. So at our school, the farm, we have. We expect the students to do. If you're going through the 1 year journey, so one of the requirements is to do what we call a skip project. So SKIP, so Strategic Kingdom Invasion Project. The idea is for each student to execute a project that is geared to bring influence to a particular area of calling or a number of them. It can target a number of areas. So spheres of influence. So we expect each and every student to do that. So there are those who do things that bring influence to the family space. There are those who do, in the education space, we've had a lot of education apparently. The interesting thing is that the cohorts have had very, very different dynamics. Your cohort 5 has a lot of people who are in the healing space, in health and wellness of being. The other cohort that was unique was cohort 2. Cohort 2 actually had many teachers, educators. It had many educators. So and so So yeah, that's what we call the skip projects. And like yours, the takeout podcast, I started on that. So yes, using media to influence, but you've already done a lot to influence the family space through conversations and all, and it continues to, because as you know, as you've stated, it's targeting to cover all the spheres in conversation. Yeah.
Now, there's a very interesting aspect when we were talking about these things, and because it was a vision I had for so long, it was interesting that, yes, I did some part of it, but there was really great help from people, and I want to thank them, by the way.
Okay.
They made this possible, and if you did make it possible, thank you so much. Maybe naming would be a problem, but thank you so much for taking your time and all that, or taking your investment to actually invest in someone that you probably don't know very well. And I think I don't know about the farm thing, because it seems like it's just not your effort.
Yes.
I know God is the masterpiece. He does all these things, but what was your experience about now helping hands?
Helping hands, absolutely. Like you're saying about the podcast, lots of help, and that has been our experience with the farm. Lots of help, like from the onset. From the onset, and I think that's the thing. From the time that God gave us the go-ahead to start, and just putting the vision out there, and we don't know how it's going to happen in terms of resources. So a lot of people came in. I mean, we just, so there was a lot of movement in terms of everything we needed, in terms of resources, the things we needed, venues we needed. So we've had a lot of help, and really grateful for the people God has used. It's absolutely not one or two people's efforts, and continues to be so, because to the level we have grown because of concerted effort, not just in terms of the resources, but in terms of building it, because people come in and put in their skills, their expertise, their experiences, their time, volunteering their time, be able to do this and that. So realize that the vision thrives when there is that support. And I'm glad you brought it up, because it is a gap, and it's a reason why many visions fail. It's a reason because we have more people who are trying to do it alone, and it's a problem. It's a Kenyan problem, it's an African problem, it's a human problem. But let's talk about it as an African problem, because we struggle with things like partnerships. We struggle with things like, being able to network, being able to get help for some. So you have a lot of duplication of efforts than people who are collaborating and therefore are able to go further. Like now in the entrepreneurship space, for example, they say, a majority of business, a larger percentage of businesses fail in the first year. I looked at it and said, one of the big reasons they fail is because many go it alone. Many people go it alone. So in two ways. One, because people were not seeking mentorship to be able to grow, so their hands are not being held, and people who are not holding other people's hands. So you have a lot of individual efforts, which translates to a hustle. It should have been easier if you had that support and help from other people pulling efforts, making it happen.
Interesting. I was looking at the communities that rule the world. Some of them are Israelis. Are they? Do you know anything about them? Because I hear. I've listened to podcasts where they talk about someone is talking about wealth that was given to him from other people. Like the fluency of being given something by someone else. So that to a point where if you are renting a house together and you keep wondering, this guy goes for holidays and he tells you, my uncle left this and that here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated about Jewish culture. I'm fascinated about the Israeli culture in that sense, and a few others, Asian cultures. Because of that element you're mentioning, they have this, and we're just talking wealth. It's wealth, it's wisdom, it's strength that is passed from generation to generation. In fact, I remember one of my clients a few years ago. We were chatting, and she was telling me she runs a network of businesses that sells sports bikes. Yeah, they specialize in sports bikes. And she was saying this business has been in our family for 5 generations. They have been selling bikes for that long. And most of our businesses are first generation. In fact, people starting from scratch. This generation, it dies off, and then the next generation having to start from scratch. So there's that problem of synergy. There's a lack of synergy, and I think it goes in the same way, because if you look at any culture or nation that lacks that multi-generational connection, they also struggle with poverty and economic crisis. They struggle, and that story is very much in our African setting. So because of the lack of the multi-generational strength, so every generation has to start from scratch. And competing against other races and other cultures that have multi-generational strength. So you wonder why they're able to do what they do a lot easier. They're able to build wealth that transcends, So, I like the way you're putting it, because the same struggle we have with visions that are individualistic, that are centered on one person. Running a structure where it's completely dependent on one person. So the unsustainability of that then trickles down the generational lines. So that's why we struggle to build wealth. That's why we struggle to build our economies. That's why we struggle to build, structures that outlast us. And so we have this cycle of start and stop. So many things that are stalled. Just thinking about it, even within the Kenyan economy, if you look at people who are succeeding in business, you see the multi-generational component. It's not their strength alone. So if they were to do their strength alone, they would not be there.
Actually, there was an analysis, and it said the people who own wealth in Kenya start with the number one Indians.
Yes.
It take about 40%.
Yeah.
Then it goes to Muslims.
Yes.
Then it goes to multinationals. Then it goes to 3% of us.
Yeah.
And that 3% is really families that that rule over Kenya.
Yeah.
So I'd really like the person who's watching, hey, let's occupy these spheres so that we can bring about change.
Yes.
If we leave them to other people, it will be crazy.
Yeah.
Because they have their beliefs and all that.
And it's all about strategy, because like you're mentioning, why are they succeeding? They have a better strategy. It's not that they are smarter or better. It's not a problem of capacity. I don't think so. But it's a problem with their strategy. Just like what we were mentioning, relationship is a huge strategy. It's a huge strategy. Learning to walk together. That's something that will bring us closer to the vision of conquering these different spaces. When we look at the Asians that you're mentioning, for example, that own top wealthiest establishment, their families. So it tells you is someone is not working alone. They're not doing it alone. So, and I like the challenge that you're presenting to take over the spheres. It's going to take a strategic approach to be able to do it, but steps, one step at a time. Beginning with this podcast. And many such like things, as we say, skip projects. We take over here, and then we occupy strategically, getting the support you need.
You know, it's very interesting how this podcast, by the way, came about.
Yeah.
You remember the Occupy Parliament?
Yes.
Occupy Church? And it seemed like a 1 minute phenomenon.
Yeah.
So the purpose was, as I was thinking, the purpose of the podcast, I really was answering to the questions that people were pushing to the politicians and all that.
Yeah.
And I felt Christians, we were complaining. We are so complaining, but solutions are not put on the table. We're just complaining.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you think about the thing about complaining.
Yeah.
Oh, our leaders are this and that. And we're still back there. And we're watching from afar.
I mean, it's when you think about that culture, it's a culture-wide problem, which points to a perspective that we carry. And it means there is a perspective we carry. First of all, there are different pieces of it. I can talk about maybe 2 or 3. One is a piece of it is a Messiah complex. A Messiah complex being that we're waiting for this big person to come and save us. Whereas when you look at, prospects of change, both change in our lives and change in society around us, because that change starts with me. It starts from within. When I change, my world changes. When I change, my world changes. So there's that piece that informs that complaining attitude. So, which ties into what I was going to say next, which is the challenge of change. Because when you change the nation, for example, it begins with self-government. It begins with me. In fact, the biggest thing I can do to change my nation is to change myself. Because when I change myself, I begin a ripple effect of transformation. Looking at my own, what I can call my spiritual footprint. The impact that my actions have on the others. I think we tend to project the problems we have, blame it on leaders, blame it on people of influence, not knowing that they are merely a representation of what we all are. And so the challenge then comes back to us. If I want to change in the family space, then I need to step up and effect the change. And by stepping up, effecting the changes, like you're doing this podcast, calling people out, what that does, it empowers others now to step up in their own spaces and bring change. And that's how we can bring real change. When you think about it, no matter who we vote into office, they will not really bring the change we desire into society. The change starts with us.
Interesting. I know that if you continue speaking about this, we will not finish.
Yes.
It's a very interesting topic. We're 1 hour in, are we?
Not yet.
If you're not 1 hour in, we can continue. But you can holler at me once we are over that clock. So I don't know if there's anything that you feel I have left out, or that you feel this should be spoken about.
Oh, well, just speaking up the thoughts. We've shared different thoughts on, and the heart of it is societal change. The heart of it is societal change, and challenging the individual to look at ways in which, each and every one of us look at ways in which I can contribute to societal change. Ways in which I can contribute to societal change. So probably the bit that I would add to that is what stands in the way. What stands in the way of individuals stepping out, stepping up into the different spaces. And it could be any of a number of things, because our fears, for example, our insecurities, the gaps in our identity. So like you were saying earlier, someone feeling insecure. Am I really ready to do this? Am I really ready to do this? And if we all second guess ourselves, nothing will get done. Nothing will get done. So looking at, with my shortcomings, these are my strengths, these are my gifts, these are my talents, these are my opportunities, these are ways in which I can contribute. So I can contribute, and as you contribute, that's the thing about cultivation. as you make the difference, you also grow in the process.
All right.
Yeah, you also grow in the process. You also learn. You become better. You as you challenge others, you challenge yourself, and you grow. You become better. So dealing with some of those barriers where that stand in the way of people stepping up to their opportunities, whatever it is that you're called to do. For Larry, it's a podcast. For somebody else, what's that platform you have? Or it's music, or writing, for example, or leadership in different spaces, or you're in entrepreneurship and starting businesses is how you want to change society. That's another way. And think about it, or in the family space, for example, in the relationship within a family space, whether that's a relationship in terms of marriage, in the marriage context, what can be done to bring change in the marriage context. That's another space. What can be done to correct issues around singlehood, around masculinity, femininity, what can be done towards children, because children are now the seeds of the future. So maybe there's somebody who's watching and you're passionate about children. What can I do to make a difference in the children's space? What are the small ways, small steps you can take to begin to spark change there? So all of us, I can say, breaking the threshold of fear, the thing that holds you back, and then stepping out to do what it is that you're called to do. So that's what I would add to that.
Amazing. You actually touched on what I should have touched on, the family sphere, because that's what I've been tackling.
Oh yes.
From the start. And where I'm at, singlehood.
Yes.
And most of the viewers, I think, have been looking at the statistics or the analysis of my viewership.
All right.
It seems as if that we are younger.
Yeah.
So it's a different generation.
Yeah, single.
Yeah, so like the effects there are crazy, because I'll be talking about the relationship dynamic, because we believe family starts from the friendship, then goes to it's about levels. I don't know what you would say to that generation where we are single looking for someone, and again there are boundaries that are done in culture. Like let's say in the dating space where they're talking about there's a limit of age. And what else? There's a limit of in fact, how people say it, I want someone who is financially stable, It's stable because it seems like it doesn't exist. And actually, one of the classes, it really was a brainstorm of now the lead defining the guy from a single point of view, and the lady from a single point of view, and the table. The table thing. So what are your thoughts about it?
First of all, to young and every young and single person, I would say singlehood is a beautiful thing. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and that's a loaded statement. I would say it's an opportunity to prepare. Opportunity to prepare. So I think that goes back to earlier we were mentioning the element of vision. Goes back to the element of vision, because a relationship, getting into marriage, it's about vision, it's about companionship towards something. So I think the person who said, if I had 10 hours, to cut a tree, I would 10 hours to cut a tree. I'll spend 7 out of it sharpening the axe, and then 3 cutting it. The wisdom in that is appreciating the value of singlehood as an opportunity to prepare, not just for life, to prepare for life, yes, to prepare for the relationship that you're going to get into. So that's fast. That makes singlehood priceless. Because if you're a lady, for example, as a lady, that is an opportunity to prepare for what relationship will look like. So it includes getting to know yourself, getting to understand yourself, and working on your expectations. Because the expectations we have around the marriage space, that might not be ideal. They're less than ideal. you get to the other side and then you have buyer's remorse. What I ordered, what I got. Yeah. So it becomes an issue of expectation. So I think spending the 7 hours sharpening the axe, getting to know yourself. I think one of the problems that we have in situations of marriage is where people get into the space without knowing themselves sufficiently. I think the individual knowing themselves is key to the health of the relationship. So one whole person getting married to another whole person. A lot of questions that I hear, that I get asked about singlehood and the transition into marriage. They go back to the question of identity. Go back to the question of identity. Because what will make you the right person for the other person? We tend to think of in terms of what looking for the right person for me. But what am I the right person for this to the other person? And I think having the focus on being the right person, it then opens the door to finding the right person. Finding the right person. Then now the questions of how that process looks like. I think it is good to understand that having that interest is good. It's not a bad thing. Having the interest, yes, you're looking forward to marriage. You're looking forward to get into the relationships. It's good, but just like every venture, prepare for it. Prepare for it. Think about it as you're doing a startup. You're trying to launch a startup. You don't just walk into it, and I think the way we get into relationships can be quite tricky. So what are the preparations? Because from a position of being married for a number of years and also working with married couples, I have seen that the biggest gap is wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Illiteracy, I call it relational illiteracy. That is the biggest problem. And you find that when we solve the problem of knowledge, prepare the individual sufficiently, then they're able to function well in that relationship.
Right, fine. Although you haven't answered the question.
Yes, I realize that.
Age. About the age.
Age. The issue of age gap. Interesting question. I think there are other questions we need to answer before that one. Other questions we need to answer before that one. Because before you look at the age element, and this is what we teach around relationships. So we teach around relationships. We teach about getting divine direction in the relationship space. So that's more important. That's more important. The other things can be a consideration, but they are, how do you say? They are subordinate. There's a more important factor, which is the direction element. They can be, you can talk about age and compatibility and all that, in terms of the mind, the emotions and all that. And then also singlehood looks differently at different age groups. Singlehood in the 20s is slightly different than singlehood in the 30s and in the 40s. The dynamics are different, but they all can be navigated. They all can be navigated. I've heard people who got married at 40 or 45, 30, 35. But my challenge, my encouragement is, it's good to get married as young as possible. That's my encouragement.
Okay, fine. All right. So that was the conversation today.
Yes.
I'm so happy that we did this.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For showing up.
Yes.
So hope to see you more in this podcast. We'll do another one. I can't really put it in my head that it's time already, but thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, and looking forward to more of this, the takeout going forward. And invite all the viewers to subscribe.
Yes. I have forgot that, but See you on the next one.
All right, see you on the next
Check out podcast right there.
Thank you.
Peace.